The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this podcast are their own. They may not be the opinions of this network, their groups, or other organizations they may be involved with.
It's all going to pot, whether we like it or not. Best I can tell, the world's gone to hell, and we're sure gonna miss it a lot. All the whiskey in Lynchburg, Tennessee just couldn't fill that spot. I got $100 bill, man, you can keep your pills, man. It's all going to pot. It's all going to pot, whether we like it or not. Best I can tell, the world's gone to hell, and we're sure gonna miss it a lot. All the whiskey in Lynchburg, Tennessee just couldn't fill the spot. I got $100 bill, man, you can keep your pills, man. It's all going to pot. I got $100 bill, man, you can keep your pills, man. It's all going to pot.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Peace News and Views here on the NOK Network. We are patients everywhere advocating cannabis evolution with me, your joint host, Kim Cooper, and the awesome Siir SteveO in the house. How's it going tonight, dude?
It's going pretty good, actually. I had a good week this week, and I am excited for this panel discussion tonight. This is some of my favorite the panel discussions. We get so many different opinions, and just class act all the way around. I love it.
Oh, agreed. I look forward to these. We try to host a panel discussion at least every 4 to 6 weeks or so, and fit them into the schedule here. And tonight we got some hot topics on top. Of course, here in Canada, we have legalization nationwide through an act they call the Cannabis Act. And for the last 6 years, that's the act that we've all been living under, and the legislation that we've been living under. And most recently, the government appointed a panel review study to take a look at the Cannabis Act and how it's working out in different areas across the nation. And they have released their report on it. And man, the cannabis community is a buzzing. We've added a person into the stream here tonight that isn't listed on the preview for tonight's show. My bad. I'm going to bring that one in right now. We've got our joint host extraordinaire, Ron McNabb.
Ron.
Everyone.
Hey, Ron.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah, we're all pretty psyched to talk about this, and we put together a pretty good fucking panel, I think, eh?
I think so.
Yeah.
Powerhouse panel here.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
We're going to dive into it.
Yep. I promoted the show on the sesh that I came off of for the IWK 710 Daily Sesh. So I believe in the message that we have to say to the people about this is it's all BS.
Well, welcome, Ron. We appreciate having you here tonight.
Well, thank you.
We absolutely do. And just a note to our listenership out there, I do start my road trip tomorrow. So Ron McNabb and Siir SteveO are in charge here at NOK Network. So thank you both for that. I don't want to waste no time. Let's bring these guys in. We got a shit ton of people. I'm going to let you do introductions and push buttons because there's so many, SteveO. I'll leave it to you.
Oh, absolutely. Please help me, everyone, in welcoming our guests to the show tonight. We've already introduced Ron, and now I'd like to introduce Mr. Jeffrey Lundstrom. Welcome to the show, Jeffrey.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here as always.
Also, we have Mr. Neil Magnuson here tonight. Welcome to the show.
Also a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Welcome. And Mr. Pat Warnecke. Thank you for coming tonight, sir.
What's up, guys? Great to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Just a note, we do have Jack Lloyd listed as one of our panel members tonight. He is still going to be arriving, but he's going to be arriving late. Life of a lawyer, life in Jack Lloyd land. I mean, this is normal for Jack. Mr. Jack Lloyd. Yeah, I love that guy. So he will be, lawyer Jack Lloyd will be in the house momentarily. Tonight we're gathered here because we all got some pretty strong views, I think, on the Cannabis Act. Now, Siir SteveO is my American counterpart, covering the cannabis scene down in the US of A. So what we've got going on up here is very new to those guys, and they're learning as we grow here at NOK Network. Now that we are international with Siir SteveO down in Illinois. So I sent you some papers and some articles on the Cannabis Act, Siir SteveO. I kind of want to start there. Okay. What were your thoughts on anything that you took a look at?
Well, what I notice is the differences, in a lot of what's going on. But then I noticed the similarities that kind of struck me for the loop mostly. They're talking about some of their bullet points were public health, the First Nations and Inuit and Metis. We just refer to them as Native Americans here, but I like the way you guys, use their actual names and stuff. That's pretty cool, by the way. But, their industry recommendations, their medical access, it just seems to me like they're kind of trying to throw it away from helping the patients and especially, the grassroots community. And more or less, it seems like they're kind of pushing it more towards helping the big business out in the government, Yeah,
agreed. It's quite the shit show. The Cannabis Act, I think the one person that I've got here at the network that has probably dove into this even more than me, because I'm stretched so fucking thin these days, I don't have time to fart. But Ron McNabb, you dove into this pretty fucking good, and just without getting too deep into everything, overview, good, bad?
In my opinion, first of all, the Cannabis Act, I think was a horrible document. As soon as I seen that the ACMPR was rolled into the Cannabis Act, I knew right then and there that it was no good for the patients, because that tells me that they're wanting to streamline the medical into this rigid thing using synthetics and all that. And that's not from that perspective, but from what I read with the medical aspect of this, with the standard dosing, how are you going to get that with a smokable product? You're going to get that through a synthetic product. So I think that's where they're going to be going more on it from the medical aspect of it. And if that's what it is, then that's not what the majority of patients want, or at least the majority of patients who know what, because some people just know, they don't have any idea. They just think, oh, well, weed's weed, right? No, it's not. There's a big difference between where you
difference in the patient community. I want to jump down to the man in the middle, right, to blow Siir SteveO there, because when it comes to patient access and access in general, low barrier access, no bigger mouse in the business than Mr. Neil Magnuson.
Well, first and foremost, the legalization of weed in Canada is nothing short of an unethical, hostile takeover of the cannabis industry by the very people who were in charge of putting it down for the last, decades and more. The Cannabis Act itself is a untenable document that is its own worst enemy. The stated goals of the Cannabis Act are to have people use regulated cannabis and to deter illegal activity. Well, based on the laws in Canada and the barriers that are there in the Cannabis Act, the Cannabis Act is the biggest barrier to all of that, with the high prices that are unreachable for the majority of average Canadians. They have no choice but to continue on with the unregulated market cannabis, which means that demand will drive a supply of illegal behavior, just what they say they're trying to curtail. So Trudeau on the campaign trail said that they would be eliminating the unregulated market because the pricing would be so good and the cannabis would be so good that nobody would ever do anything but go to a cannabis store, and nothing but the opposite has been the case.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. The way they've set this act up in the beginning, you know, I thought with this review coming, I thought they were going to take an honest look at the Cannabis Act and give some recommendations like they did with the recommendations prior to the Cannabis Act being set up. And now I'm looking at this review and I'm just going, what the actual fuck is happening here? Pat Warnecke, you're diving into this.
Well, the Senate report. The Senate report from 2014, I would say, is probably a better document than anything. Like, how much more evidence do you need? They state right in there clearly that there's no harm to children. There's no harm to adults who use it every day. I've been using cannabis, and I'm not talking a small amount, every day now consistently for my medical needs for over 15 years since I broke my back in 2000. Right? So, like, it's insane that you were talking earlier, Rob, about them messing with dose amounts. They're also talking about increasing price and tax on expensive weed. So more potent, the more money it's going to cost you. Well, what happens to cancer patients who need high doses because they're dealing with chemotherapy treatment? They're puking and their hair's falling out. People, that's like having a cancer patient pay for parking when they go to the hospital to get treatment. It's insane how we treat people who are sick and dying in this country.
Absolutely.
Nothing short of medical discrimination.
For sure.
Absolutely.
100%. And how come we're not lobbying against the government to take them to the Supreme Court for that kind of mistreatment?
100%.
Like, it's disgusting. Disgusting.
It's an attack on the disabled people in Canada.
Yeah, that includes me.
On all levels, because I'm on provincial disability, and in respect to cannabis and a lot of other aspects with regards to that, like, there's so many aspects of their regulations that are in contravention of basic human rights, and no one's taking.
When we talk about the medical and giving access to pharmacies to control the medical, well, we discussed and we got a chartered decision in our favor saying that patients should have access to this and it shouldn't be controlled at that level. There has to be access, has to be unimpeached access to cannabis, period. And it's not happening. They're admitting it. It's not happening. It's still not happening. The fact that they're just talking about giving it to pharmacies, they're talking about giving it to pharmacies in 2013. I mean, we're at the exact same point that we were, 10 years ago, basically. Nothing's changed. It's saying that, that they have to be, everybody has to be restricted to 10 milligrams, for edibles, per bag of edibles, because of child safety. Well, how many children have died? Yeah, sure, they might have got high for a bit, but at the end of the day, they didn't die. Nothing serious happened, or they'd be showing it to us. They'd definitely be, it'd be in the news and everything else. So the fact that they're going to kill people with diabetes instead, and instead of having one edible and having your 80 milligrams, if that's what you need, now you have to have 40 edibles, 40 gummies instead, because you need to get that 80 milligrams or 100 milligrams, and you're only allowed 2 milligrams per edible, whatever it is, and 10 per bag. Well, I mean, so where's the medical value in that? How do we help people if that's where they're trying to push everybody? It doesn't make any sense at this point.
Yeah. That's my.
I wonder what Jack's opinion is of the review.
Yeah, Jack Lloyd in the house, ladies and gentlemen. He has arrived. Lawyer extraordinaire Jack Lloyd has joined us. Better late than never. We always expect Jack to be late. That's okay.
Sorry. Oh, hi, Neil. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
But yeah, Pat, that's the biggest craw that I've had with the entire act since it was first instituted back in 2018. I mean, I understand the want to gravitate towards recreational sales and use for overall expansion of the model that we had, the pre-existing medical model that we've had in this nation for over 20 years. I get that, but having the medical market swept up into that or just disregarded altogether is more of the direction that I see it going, that the medical model is being thrown in the garbage. When it was the template for the existing recreational quote unquote model. I hate using that term, but it is the term of the day these days. But it's come on the backs of patients. Now, for me to go to an OCS and get my daily dose of cannabis, I would be spending over $3,000 a week and intaking almost 100 times the amount of sugar through via gummy bear distribution of edibles that I take right now. 100 times per week the amount of sugar to get the required dosing that I need for my edibles. How is that fucking right? Like, that's
What do you think? I'd like to know what Jack thinks of the whole thing with the review and the Cannabis Act.
Oh, you're muted, Jack.
Yeah, Jack.
There we go. That's all good.
I don't know if I have any revolutionary positions on it. I was somewhat disappointed in the continued emphasis on enforcement. I don't think the criminal, obviously the way that it was regulated uses the criminal law. And I just don't like it. If it's an industry, okay, it's an industry. It can't be regulated by the criminal law, right? There's no other industry that's regulated by the criminal law. There's no change on that. I participated in a bunch of programs with, there was a senator, and I went and talked about it. I think the only thing they took from what I said was tricks to improve the way they enforce against anybody they deem to be non-compliant. But ultimately, I don't view any good changes from a tax perspective. I don't view any good changes from a product potency perspective. I don't view any good changes really from anything other than certain concerns voiced by very large corporations that hold a variety of licenses federally and provincially. So,
the review seems to have focused on them.
Right. So
the whole thing doesn't make sense unless you look at it through the lens of these are people that hate cannabis users. They're not cannabis consumers themselves. They want to cash in on the lucrative market. And it all makes sense when you look at it that these are the people that are putting all this stuff out there. From the point of view of the actual people that are involved with cannabis in Canada, not only does it make no sense, it's a nightmare. For the medical users, it's an absolute nightmare for sure, 100%. And what we got to make sure is that this model does not get entrenched and then exported worldwide, which is what their plan is to do.
Yeah. Well, and to go further, one step further with this medical thing that we kind of got into here, I want to get back to a pre-show conversation that we were all having as a group. And I'm trying to steer us in that direction a little bit right now. But they're saying, okay, we're going to take a look at maybe, the medical model. Okay, as a patient, maybe you need higher doses. But if we look at that, we're going to make you pay higher taxes for that. So they're literally targeting the medical community.
Yeah.
There are some states that are like that too, where they charge based on the THC percentage.
Yeah, they do that here in Illinois, and isn't the reasoning behind that because they believe it discourages recreational use and stuff?
They see, that's the thing in Canada. They don't want people using cannabis. Health Canada does not want people using cannabis, period.
No, that's why it's still a recommendation, not a prescription.
From the beginning.
Exactly.
It's all your paperwork from Health Canada. Everything you get from them, it straight states that they don't see it as a medicine and don't recommend that you use it as such.
Yeah. And here's the thing. One of the biggest stakeholders and contributors to Health Canada in regards to, Health Canada is just administer the cannabis file. They don't, they can't really, they make changes based on court challenges and stuff like that, but they take their direction from the Canadian Medical Association. The Canadian Medical Association, their stance on cannabis is avoid cannabis, period.
Yeah, well, since legalization's happened, most of the at least two of the provinces that we know of for sure, with patients in it that we talk to all the time, and doctors that we work with all the time, for Saskatchewan and Alberta, the College of Physicians has told doctors to not prescribe anymore. I saw the actual letter from one of the doctors that I work with all the time, and he showed it to me plain as day. And as soon as legalization happened, and he did hundreds, if not thousands, of prescriptions for us. And he said right away that he got this letter. I went to his office and showed it to me. So I mean, it's right across the board. They're trying to get rid of cannabis as a medication, obviously.
At same level, the College of Physicians, they get their guidance from the CMA as well, and the CMA website. You can go on there, like you can go and print off these placards that are warnings to display in your office of cannabis.
Are there sanctions coming against those doctors that will continue to prescribe?
There may be. There used to be. I mean, back in the day, remember when we used to have to get 2 doctors to sign our fucking shit, right? I mean, and then, some doctors, if they wrote too many, they were getting sanctioned back then. So we were going backwards, not fucking forwards by
the doctor's letter that I read was definitely threatening in nature. And it was to the point that he doesn't want to write prescriptions anymore. You got to think, a lot of these doctors are from where? They're not even Canadian. They're in on visas or whatever else in a lot of cases. So what are they gonna rock the boat? To get sent
was that in Saskatchewan, Pat? Was the doctor in Saskatchewan, Pat?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
I've had one that the College for Physicians in Saskatchewan can be extremely aggressive. I had a file.
Super aggressive.
Doctor, he's been a doctor. He had been a doctor for like 30 years, and he had a patient, a very unique situation where he did require a lot of cannabis per day, and he did the most comprehensive analysis, this huge thing when he wrote the medical authorization. And the college went after. I represented. The college went after his license, and I remember this poor man going, "I have nothing to do with this weird." He goes, "I read all of the materials from Health Canada. I read my obligations with my College of Physicians. I did everything I'm supposed to do." And suddenly he's got Health Canada, because Health Canada is basically outsourcing this issue. Health Canada is saying to the colleges, you get this doctor, or you get in Ontario, they're going after nurses as well. And so I just remember this poor man. He's not a cannabis activist. He has nothing to do with our community. He literally just was doing his job as a physician. It's absurd. And you know what's funny is when I was defending him, I went in 2005. They did a regulatory impact regarding, look, who's going to authorize people to access medical cannabis? And they said, okay, it's got to be physicians. And the physicians went to Parliament and said, we do not want this responsibility.
I know.
We think this is going to be a big problem. We don't like it. And what Parliament said to them was, they said to every college in Canada, every province's College of Physicians, they said, it's not up to you. It's patient directed. The patient just tells you how many grams per day they consume, and you write that down on the form. That's it. That's the level of your involvement. You make an assessment about whether or not that could be harmful for them, provide them with the information, and that's the end of the physician's involvement. So it's really absurd. That's Parliament's position, right? It hasn't changed since 2005. They had every opportunity. They never even got into that on this analysis, right? So it hasn't changed since then.
I mean, I can see us winding up back in the same position that we were in the late 90s and the early 2000s, when all of this started happening. Dr. Cameraman and all these different folks that are out there. We're going back to pay to play, because our family doctors are backing their fucking buses up, and rightfully so, because they're getting hassled by the colleges and they have their livelihoods to consider. So we're back to pay to play. We're back to, give me $100, give me $250, and I'll write you your script for a year through an internet fucking connection, and you're out the door. I mean, this is ludicrous that we're going backwards. This is I know I keep coming back to this, but it's because it's making me fucking crazy.
I got a question for Jack. How would that apply to people who were with the Allard decision then for MMAR?
Yes.
patients.
So you're good. So if they've never gone back to federal court to amend the order. So if those MMAR remain sort of the bastion of sort of safe cannabis space, because like I'm counsel on I think 1,800 files in which Health Canada has effectively said to some poor cancer patient, we don't believe that you use 73 grams of cannabis per day, so we're revoking your license. The only way I can, like, they go, we've got an expert report. This is Health Canada's language. Health Canada then says, we've spoken to an expert. They don't disclose who the expert is. They won't disclose it to me. They say, but the expert says most anybody could humanly consume is 25 grams per day. They say that, and they go, and that Mr. Lloyd, like they're talking to me because I'm counsel on so many of them. They go, and Mr. Lloyd, that includes juicing, right? So they're saying that it's impossible to consume more than 25 grams per day. And so I've got this ongoing fight with them. So I'm saying, well, look, I've got all these cancer patients and sick people that are saying that they consume significantly more than that. They're then being assessed by a physician or a nurse, and the physician or the nurse is saying, okay, I believe my patient, and B, it's not harming them medically, right? So, like, how do you prove this use? So what I've been doing is I've been doing these affidavits, like outlining every gram they consume every day, trying to check with Health Canada. It's like, it's like this, it's kind of an absurdity, but sorry, this is like a long answer to a short question, but the short answer is the Allard protected MMAR licenses, so those licenses that were grandfathered, they're good until they try to return to federal court. But anybody that's licensed under Part 14 of the cannabis regulations, so like what we call the ACMPR, like you're at risk, right? Like Health Canada is saying the most you can have is 25 grams per day, right?
Yeah. So where's all the people that have died or have some long-term chronic condition because they've consumed more than 25 grams a day? Where's any of those people?
Yeah, where are
they can't even trot out one.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, all I see is people that are.
I wish they would try to consume some cannabis themselves and see how much they can consume it in a day for 6 months, and then see how they think.
Yeah, I lost my MMAR when I moved up here from Wasaga Beach, and because you're not allowed to move, so I lost my MMAR. So I'm under the ACMPR now, and I'm fucking scared.
Yeah. What does MMAR stand for us?
Okay,
Americans?
Medical Marijuana
Access regulation.
Regulation. That was our original. See, SteveO, over the course of the last 22 years, we've had 4 different cannabis medical plans, sort of a deal with the government. So first it was called the MMAR, and it was your and that was the original one that came out. It was ordered by the courts. The government was ordered by the courts to give patients access.
Mine's in pretty rough shape, but
there's this paper.
Yeah.
So it went back to court several times, and then the MMAR got changed to something called the MMPR. And the way they did it was a brand new program, but anyone that was in the first program, the original one, because you were one of the first peoples or in the original plan, you then get grandfathered into all new existing plans that the government comes up with. So those guys that have those original documents, you're safe, you're covered by a court order. But new people, they integrated it so that if you had the original document, the MMAR, it's only good until you move. If you move and you have to change anything on your form, like your change of address or anything like that, because the program no longer exists, you cannot make changes. Wow. So you are eliminated from that program, and you now have to enroll in whatever the new program is that the government has going on. So that's what happened to me. I had to move. So when we changed farms, I lost my access to my original paperwork, and I had to get grandfathered into the new one. I'm no longer grandfathered in from the original papers. So anybody that moves, you're fucked.
See,
that has to be most people by now.
Yeah.
Is that happened to you, Pat? Is that what you were waving at?
Yeah, that happened to me for sure. I actually had my license, and I was also a designated grower for several other people. We had a unique situation with our farm with the address and how it worked out. We had 6 growers at one location. We had people with spina bifida and some serious serious need of medication. So we had a good thing going that was helping a lot of patients, and that's what we did way back when, and led us into Best Bud Society. Yeah.
So Jeff and Ron, you're on the new program probably then?
I'm still on the old program myself.
Yeah, Jeff's got his MMAR papers, so
I never joined another program.
Yeah,
I never will either. But I never had a problem anytime I've ever had to produce my license. But John Conroy said that it was not a bad idea for, even if you have an MMAR and you didn't have any changes, to apply and get the MC or whatever the new one is. I always get it wrong. But just to have the dual license, he said you're just better off to have both of them. So he said,
can you have both? Can you have both?
You can, yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, 100%.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, as long as all those things didn't change. And then the only other thing they changed was your carry amount. So I used to be able to carry 900 grams under my license anywhere I went in Canada. The new program only allows you to carry your 150, so 150 grams plus your 30 legal. From what I understand, Jack might be able to back that up.
Jack, can you confirm those numbers?
That's correct. Yeah. So now your personal authorization is basically maxed out, and this is sort of fallout from Allard, but it's maxed out at 150 grams of your medical cannabis, and then Health Canada has confirmed directly to me multiple times, actually on cross-examination, that you can have an additional 30 grams. Mm-hmm. And I think it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, like what they're saying there. Like really what's going on is like this gradual, I've talked about this before, but this gradual elision of the medical cannabis program, right? So what Health Canada is saying is there's no difference between your medical cannabis and recreational cannabis. So of course you can have an additional 30 grams. But like if from a strict, because they're not lawyers, right? But like from a strict legal perspective, the determination under the Cannabis Act is licit cannabis. And so under the legislation, the additional 30 grams, so you're at 150 grams. Okay, great. You got your 150 grams that come from your licensed lawful medical grow. The additional 30 grams becomes illicit if it's from your medical grow. Like that's why it like irks me, like, because I'm going like, all right, well, like you're saying that my community is all bullshit and you're just going to destroy us and turn us into a recreational community. But like you're actually making an assertion, and they've done it multiple times under oath, that the medical cannabis can simply then also be possessed as recreational, which is incorrect. Right. In order to be
by their own rules.
Right. In order to be licit cannabis, the additional 30 grams would need to come either from your 4 plants grown at your residence under the recreational allowance, or it would need to have an excise tax stamp on it and come from a recreational storefront, which you've purchased. That's the additional.
What about that you're allowed to give somebody 30 grams?
Yeah.
Right. Well, what I always say to people is you're not allowed to do it. You're just not. It's not illegal to do it. Like there's a difference between a positive right and a negative right. So,
but if you give somebody 30 grams, of weed, is there any distinction as to where that needed to come from, or is that person now in possession of just 30 grams that were given to them and they're allowed to have that?
Yeah, it's really super duper interesting. So I've dealt with it before. So. Let's go back to our hypothetical scenario. Not at all. You've got your hypothetical 30 grams. So I got in a fight with this on a trial one time with a Crown who was actually pretty smart about it. But say random cannabis seeds and that you didn't buy them from a licensed provincial retailer, the cannabis grown from is not technically licit, right? Like if you read the act. So in any way, they're never going to catch you doing it, right? Like a distinction without a difference. But okay, so you've got your 30 grams. If the 30 grams, say you just got the 30 grams and it was completely illegal. It was like somebody was growing 10,000 unlicensed illegal cannabis plants for the purposes of smuggling it to Switzerland for some nefarious purpose or whatever they were up to. And you took 30 grams of cannabis from that's illicit cannabis. You're not entitled to share. They're not The exemption doesn't apply for sharing it. So it has to be licit cannabis, and there has to be a knowledge of the licit or illicit nature of it. That's next to impossible to prove, but that's how they've structured the legislation. So they're literally making people make a determination as they're dealing with this like magical 30 grams of, okay, where did it come from? Is it licit? Like, what's my, and when you read it, you have to have an answer. So if a cop says, okay, well, where'd the 30 grams come from? The legislation says that you have to proffer an explanation for the licit nature of the cannabis. So I always say to clients, I was like, you should probably, at the start of the year, buy 4 seeds for $80 from one of the online, through your provincial retailer, and say, okay, I got these 4 legal cannabis seeds for whatever weird strains they're offering, and then any cannabis you've got came from those 4 strains.
Yeah, absolutely. But does anybody else's head hurt?
Yeah.
Because what the fuck was that?
Yeah. Is anybody finding seeds? Is there any seeds at all ever in a bag of government weed? Does anybody find a seed in their bag ever?
Exactly.
I wouldn't know because I've never purchased any.
Me neither.
I've had some that my brother-in-law gave me.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, you probably couldn't stop some strains from herming near the end if they get stressed. That could happen in any environment.
Yeah.
Would produce seeds. But usually they're pretty strict about keeping their males and their females separate, and they're very controlled environments.
Yeah, they are. But I mean, my freaking head hurts from that complicated. Yeah. I mean, shit. Like the average.
This isn't legalization. This isn't legalization.
This is ridiculous.
Here's my question with regards to acknowledging that cannabis is medicine, because clearly Health Canada nor the CMA recognize it as such. They recognize it still as a highly controlled substance that whatever reason they feel that they need all these regulations beyond me. Oh shit, where was I going on that?
Do we have any chance, Jack, of proving that cannabis is medicine in our upcoming case?
Well, it's already been proven. So our upcoming case is about whether or not high potency derivative cannabis medicines, which are prohibited under the regulations in the Act, are medicines which give rise to if you don't have access to it, does that give rise to a violation of someone's right to life, liberty, and security of the person? Right. That's our case, and I think absolutely we'll win that.
I think we get all thumbs up.
Mr. Warnecke won it. Mr. Warnecke crushed that one.
That's right. That's right. So we're at the part in the show here where we like to call medication time. We're going to take a real quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit about Mr. Warnecke's case, because he got the okay to do so just before going live tonight. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But Pat is coming back at the start of May to dive completely into his case. But we'll get an overview of what's going on with that. We're also going to get an overview of what's going on with Mr. Neil Magnuson down there and his court case. Of course, good old Jack over there in the middle, he can chime in on both those things. We're going to talk more about the review that's in, and we're going to wind up getting everybody's opinion on where we think legalization in Canada is about to go. All that and more when we come back from medication time.
That's right. And it's break time. We'll take a few minutes here to hear about a few of the other shows in our lineup here on the NOK Network.
Absolutely. We'll be back in about 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Hang in there.
Are you a Northern Ontario resident? Searching for credible information on cannabis as a medicine? No Sir is here to help. Established in 2013, Northern Ontario Cannabis Education and Resources is here for you. No Sir Director Kim Cooper brings you 45 plus years experience utilizing cannabis as a medicine and is spreading the education across the North. Activism, resources, referrals, and more at No Sir. Don't be a jackass. Say no, sir, to cannabis propaganda with No Sir. Find us at www.nocer.ca.
Winter Movie Nights on NOK Network. Tune in to NOK on alternate Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for our winter documentary series. Our 2023-2024 lineup will include informative documentaries on natural therapy, food, and agriculture. Joint hosts, along with guests, will join in studio for post-show discussions on air and engage with our virtual audience. Join us November through February for movie nights on the NOK Network. Follow and subscribe to the NOK Network on our webpage, social media, and streaming sites, including YouTube and Rumble.
Psychedelic Tuesdays on NOK Network. Tune in at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Psychedelic Reporters. Bufo Alvarius is scouring the newswires for stories being reported in the mainstream media on the psychedelic front and passing them on to Hobby's Puppet and Tara Simpson so they can bring them to you, our listeners, in this 60-minute video news podcast. Tuesday evening news. Join us for Tuesday evening news each week at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for all your news and information from the world of psychedelic medicine. Follow and subscribe to NOK Network on our webpage, social media, and streaming sites, including YouTube and Rumble.
What's up, Northern Ontario? A video podcast based in Northern Ontario, Canada, with host Kim Cooper. Kim and her guests discuss life in rural North in this all-inclusive show about everyday life within the communities around them. News, information, spotlight interviews, as well as live on-location coverage of what is taking place in the region. From triumphs to tragedies, What's Up Northern Ontario covers it all during this locally focused podcast. Catch What's Up Northern Ontario on the NOC Network.
Hey, dudes and dudettes. Enjoy the show, man.
And we are back from our medication session here on Peace News and Views. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back. I didn't take nobody out of the feed this time. We hope you'll tune into other podcasts that were highlighted during the break, aired and produced here on NOK Network. Yeah, I didn't pull nobody out of the feed this time. Usually you guys are all in the lobby when we come back from commercial break. I didn't do that. It's too fucking many of y'all. And we're just going to keep going because this is good shit. I mean, the entire, I think we're all in agreement that the entire Cannabis Act was riddled with issues from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it wasn't what we expected. You know, when they did that coast to coast tour prior to legalization and they came out with their recommendations, I mean, they did the same thing way back when in the early 70s with the Ledane Commission. And then the Ledane Commission came back with their recommendations, which were almost identical to the ones in 2017 prior to legalization. And then the government kind of went, yeah, sounds good. Yeah, okay, we're not going to do that. And they gave us what they fucking gave us, what we have now. I think many of us were hopeful that this review was going to mirror what the original review said, what the government would do. But it's like this review is right on board with the government. Like they hired the right fucking people to give them the narrative they were looking for, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, this whole thing from top to bottom is corporate driven. I mean, we all see that. I mean, right from top to bottom, it totally tippy-toed around, and had no addressing at all of anything to do with the corruption of top law officials, government officials, people like this that were in the industry that shoved legacy people out. The things that happened in Saskatchewan, the lottery system, in which even the stats professor from the U of R went on the front page of the newspaper and gave out what the stats would be, what the chances of all these Drummond-owned families or companies, Drummond family-owned companies getting all these multiple licenses and so on. I mean, there was no investigation after. It was a lottery behind closed doors with only two people there. I mean, that's what the story should really be. The story should really be corruption. The story should really be legacy people got pushed out and are continuing to fight back and will always fight back for patients to get access to what they need for products and for prices they need. And that's where it should be. They're talking about avoiding taxes. They're talking about fraud or what's it called, money laundering and so on. Well, the fact of the matter is it's pretty hypocritical. I mean, they're the ones putting the taxes in place at this point, and the LPs still aren't paying them. So to say that the black markets are doing this and that, there's multiple articles out about the CRA now having to lean on different companies to pay the bills of taxes not getting collected, and other companies folding up because the tax is not paid. So I mean, what's the difference?
Hey, Pat, how much money do you think that the taxpayers had to spend on your case over those several years? And that's all just down the tube because they just decided that, it's not in the public interest anymore. How much money did those prosecutors pull out of that, and how much money did you think the taxpayers paid?
Absolutely. Well, at the end of the day, I did kind of quantify because I do have a criminal justice degree, and we actually did economics in running a police department. So, but the reality is, they spent a hell of a lot of money on it, and it no longer became the public interest as soon as we started asking for all the files, the access to the files behind the scenes of what was going on for the Cannabis Act, for the files that go on about the MMPR as far as the government. Like we were MMPR number 40. We were 40th in line, and we got put on a shelf, and we did all the FOIA back for access to information files and everything else, and it showed all these companies that were number 300 or 200 and whatever else that jumped ahead of all of us, and they happened to be the Tilrays and the Bedrocans and all the rest of these guys. They jumped ahead of us. Well, all of a sudden on the shelf, we never got denied, but they kept on getting ahead of us somehow. And I had Greg Ashley come into my office, from the Liberal Party. He was with Trudeau Senior's Liberal Caucus. Well, Greg Ashley came into my office, and we had witnesses there from, and he came in and said, "Hey, $250K, and we'll make sure you get your license," type thing, right? So I mean, we had this stuff happen to us. It happened. When I went to First Nations meetings for cannabis, for the Cannabis Consortium is what it was called, and they asked us to be on this board and to give information. We did that. But what I started noticing and started asking questions is there's guys like Isidore Day, who was directly connected to the Liberals, who happened to have his name on 8 or 9 of the companies that were all represented at these events and so on. And he was on the boards and so on. So we started asking questions. When I started asking questions, I got kicked out of the consortium. But what happened after that is there was some First Nations that started asking questions after that, and all of a sudden Isidore Day wasn't allowed into their communities to talk about cannabis no more. And the fights, started amping up a little bit more after that because everybody started figuring out who was who and who was doing what.
Yeah,
right?
He sold his communities out, man. That
100%. Sorry I had to take off, Jack. But yeah, sorry about that, Jack. But that is what it is. I mean, that's who came into our offices and had chats and said, hey, $250K, and it is what it is, man. And as soon as I start talking about this stuff, and as soon as I start dropping names into the news, I got gag ordered, right? We got publication. It was pretty. And
that is now lifted as of today.
Absolutely. Well, it was actually, as of today, we got confirmation from it went back and forth because we had, long story short, basically today, our charges and everything else were stayed as of a few weeks ago now, I guess. But we still didn't sort out the publication ban, and that was sorted out as we had to talk with the Crown, and they have no interest of pursuing anything with us. So it's
That's good. That's good, Pat. I'm so fucking glad for that. I mean, you were grassroots and you tried to do things the legal way. You're like, okay, here's this shit system that you're giving us. Well, fuck me. I guess I'm going to try and work in your shit system. And, you took the steps and they went, Oh, grassroots fella, yeah, we're just gonna put yours over here.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Big LP, Mr. Corporate, yeah, come on in. You know, and
That's money to pay.
Yeah, it's literally what happened, and in fact, it's even worse. Like I know for a fact, like let's get off of the federal system and on the provincial as far as the retail. A lot of us in Saskatchewan that were involved with the cannabis industry, a lot of us legacy people, when they officially sent all the letters out for the applicants and how it rolled out for the rules and regulations. First of all, let's paint a picture. There was 2 ministers sitting at the table when they did the public drop on how the access regulations were going to roll out in Saskatchewan. And there was one other person there, a gentleman by the name of Jason Drummond from a billionaire family, the Drummonds, who was the biggest invested family in cannabis in Canada. So he was also there. The ministers had to have a billionaire at the table to show how the regulations would go out. So anyways, just wanted to drop that. So anyways, after all that started happening, all of us that put our applications in, we had to put them in other people's names because this weird letter came out right before that said, if you are viewed to be of bad character, you will not be eligible for the lottery. And I thought, geez, that's a really weird way to put that. So we said, we're going to put these in other people's names and applications and so on. And they knew that game was going to happen. So you know what they did? Not only me and other people around Saskatchewan and guys that own shops and everything else and guys that own even head shops that had nothing to do with actually selling cannabis, but actually owned a head shop. Jeff knows Dylan well and everything else too. All of us all of a sudden started getting letters that our mortgages were getting pulled and that our bank accounts were done. And this is when we started, we got fin-tracked. All of us got fin-tracked before the lottery happened. And then because of that, we were all viewed as bad characters. So as we got the fin-tracked, I still can't get a loan or mortgage or anything else. My brother, who had nothing to do with Best Buds, was actually a contractor for Crown Corporations. He's got an MBA from Harvard. And he still can't get a fucking mortgage because they fin-tracked him too, because they knew that I was going to put the applications in his name, right?
So they just sullied absolutely everybody's credibility on the financial sector in order to stop grassroots.
Absolutely, 100%. So we know of a good number of people that got fin-tracked. It still affects them to this day. That was their method of keeping a lot of us out of the application. And when we knew this, we were also ineligible because there was an application fee. And if you put the application fee in, they kept the application fee, except for if you're ineligible. So we got all of our applications fees back. We were like, what's going on here? We started figuring it out, and we know the individuals' names and so on, who was involved with the bank that fin-tracked us and the whole operation, how it went down. We figured it all out, and we had some help to do that. But that's basically what happened, and it affects all of us to this day, even my brother to this day. So, I mean, what does that do? You chase legacy people out of the industry, and you really fuck them over. The exact same as what they did to the truckers for the convoy and everything else too. So, I mean, it's not a good way to treat people and think that people aren't going to fight back and decide that, hey, you know what? The best thing we can do is organize and try to help get people the medicine they need again and keep on going on that road and do whatever we have to do, because obviously the route that they're taking and they're the ones starting the war on us. What can a lot of us do? I can't go to a job interview. I can't get a mortgage. I can't get a loan. What do they expect us to do at this point?
They washed out my whole career.
Yeah.
Like
They expect you to go away.
2 years ago this month, at the end of this month, I had to shut the doors of Skunk Funk after 15 years in business because I couldn't afford to be open anymore. That's how hard they washed us out. On top of that, I barely pulled off the last Prairie Cup that following September.
Well, even for as part of our case, they went up and down us with 2 different audits. We won the audits. I mean, we paid all of our taxes. That's what made a big part of our case really tough for them. We paid all of our taxes. We paid all of our remittances, did all of our things properly, and that was really tough for them. And they actually fined us originally, and we won the case, and they still haven't given our money back for over a year. And we're the criminals. I mean, the justice system across Canada. I mean, we've all seen it from top to bottom now. My arresting officer stole my knife I had on me. We had officers throw my clothes, a signed jersey, Rough Riders jerseys, in the garbage. That was, and we had an honest officer that came and told us about it and came to return it. We had other property thrown in the garbage and trashed, everything else. We had our names put in my wife's name put in the front page of the newspaper with her picture is Saskatchewan's Most Wanted style, and they never could provide one piece of evidence to say that she was a part of it. I mean, they did everything possible above and beyond to simply bully us out of the industry so that we didn't have a voice. They could do whatever they could to rule this industry. And what happened? Nobody stood up, nobody did shit, and they did roll over most of the industry. And that's the sad part. is if everybody would have organized and stood together and fought. Even if you look at like in Saskatchewan, we're the only guys that fought. They rolled over 18 other shops that day when the raids happened. There was guys that got time for CBD and served 6 months. There was guys that took it. And I said right off the start, I even put it. I said, "Stand together. We fight this. They're gonna give up. We're gonna win this." But there's guys that would rather roll over and take 6 months for CBD than to fight and question what was going on. And that's the
crazy. I can't wrap my.
That's because the fight isn't cheap, Pat. They've made it so hard to fight. It's not cheap at all. It's frustrating as hell. It takes years through the courts.
I agree.
Like you say, the cost to taxpayers was high with you, but what was your own personal cost? Like, I need a charger.
I got to give 100% credit, 100% to Mark Berg with Miller Thompson Law. Mark was absolutely fucking awesome. Mark's a warrior for the cause. He's proven that before, and he proved it in this. And I really didn't pay much compared to what it would have cost, and when I've talked to other people, what it's costed them.
Yeah, Mark's all about the fight.
Mark made it affordable, very affordable. He did a lot of things for free. He put a lot of time in, and he didn't have to catch up on knowledge because he already knew what the fuck was going on. So, and I appreciate Jack's awesome, and Jack's very smart. Jack was amazing, and, there's other guys. Rob, Laurie, he's awesome too. There's some other guys.
He's awesome. I love Rob.
But realistically, I can't. Mark. I didn't know these guys before I knew Mark, and Mark is in Saskatchewan, and Mark was.
He's a local boy. You want to go local?
Yeah, and he knew his stuff. He helped guys out before, and I didn't know him from hole in the ground. But he was awesome for us. So, but you are right, Neil. In most cases, everybody has to pay an arm and a leg, and they lose their life from how much it costs them to go through the battle. But
look at Allard, and I mean, you look at all.
I agree. My original point is, if all of us 18 shops or 19 shops in Regina that got raided at the same time would have stood together to fight from the beginning.
Absolutely.
It was me, Jerry, and Justin are the only guys that were standing together. Look what happened. I mean, rest his soul, Jerry. But I mean, we all.
And you won though in the end for him, right?
We all won. We stood in there and we fought. And we said this isn't right. And if it had been 18 other people, it wouldn't have went 5 years. It wouldn't have went 6 years that it is now. If there was 18 of us off the start that said, "Fuck you," we're all showing up and we're all going to battle this, they would have had the amount of the cost it would have cost them. It cost them over $1 million for me for sure. For 18 of us at the same time, they would have given up.
Yeah,
I know that.
Probably a lot sooner.
We had a case with ours with a pullover. It happened with one of our drivers one time, and we told the Crown prosecutor because it was my vehicle. This and that happened, and I've already dealt with it, so I can say this live. What happened was we told the Crown that we were going to have 400 senior citizens show up that needed to show up for witnesses, to court because they were claiming it was their cannabis, and that's what we were going to have. Is they're going to have to be witnesses and this and that, and they just gave up on it. They're like, fuck, we don't have to deal with 400 fucking senior citizens, and they gave up. We can't make the fight easy at any given time. You have to stand and fight. Right. You have to do whatever tricks you have to pull, whatever you got to pull together, whatever you have to do, you have to do it. But not just.
They don't want to give up on Neil.
Oh, that's right. And now Neil's in the fight of his life as well.
Like I said, they don't want to give up on Neil.
I'm not giving up.
They got a hard on for you, brother.
They do, man.
I'm not giving up,
Yeah.
Well, I know you're not, but they're sure after you. Jesus.
Yeah.
And Ted,
I think they're spending upwards of $1 million on me too.
For sure.
Is it like $6 million in fines or some crazy shit like that? Like,
6.5.
Right. Like they just don't stop. Like it's ruthless.
How many children do you have to rape and murder to get a $6.5 million fine in Canada?
Yeah, absolutely. No kidding.
I've been just waiting to see what happens with these monumentous. These cases will set precedents. I hope Jack isn't with us anymore, but I'd like to hear him chime in about that. Like how.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you they're doing everything they can to not have it go to court. They don't want this before the judge, and that's what I'm paying for. I've done all this work and paid all this money to Jack to get this far, and I didn't do that to just get this far. But they have been trying so hard to make this go away. I could just write a letter. I could just tell them why what I did was wrong, and then they'll drop the charges against me. I could do 40 hours of community service here. My two co-accused, they did their 40 hours because they pled guilty because Jack said it'd be okay, and they did 40 hours of community service with the community Aboriginal policing service here on the downtown east side of Vancouver, run by Chris Livingston, who's a board member of our society, and one of the main reasons we started with the Herb School in the first place. And they just got to smoke weed and walk around Vancouver and see if everybody's okay. So, they'll let me do that if I want. But, of course, I'm not going for any of that. So now we have our preliminary hearing scheduled for 3 days. And the first day, 2 of the witnesses are sick. And the 2 that they put on the stand were inept as could be. The next day, the 2 witnesses were still sick. And the other witness they put on the stand that day, he was so bad that Jack didn't have to do anything. The prosecutor was asking him all these questions. And then the judge chimed in and she started really poking at him about some of his answers. And she shredded that guy on the stand. And then it was Jack turned across and he said, "Nothing, Your Honor." And so
he did it to himself. You're good.
Yeah. And so on the first day, when those 2 witnesses were sick, at the end of the day, when court was over and the judge was gone, the prosecutor said to Jack, "I can make those 2 witnesses be sick tomorrow too, if that helps." So then the next day they're sick again. And she says to the judge to start with, "Your Honor, those 2 witnesses are still not well enough to come to court today, but they're very convinced that they'll be able to be here tomorrow. They're confident that they can be here tomorrow." And the judge said, "Well, they've been sick for a couple of days now. I mean, we don't want anybody getting sick for the Easter weekend. We all want to spend the time with our families. So, maybe we should just not have them on at all tomorrow and find another day." So they spent the rest of that day trying to find another day, and they I'm sorry.
That's okay.
They couldn't do it. They came up with a day that was 1 day before the charter challenge was supposed to start. And that doesn't give the judge enough time to make a decision on this preliminary. So they spent the whole next day, the third day, without me there, just the 2 of them, coming up with a day that worked for the officers and the prosecutor and the judge and Jack. Nobody ever asked me if I was available. But anyway, they came up with June 17th. So now we're going in on June 17th for that. Now, Jack had said to me, "Look, I need to recommend to you, because it's the law that I do that. It'd be illegal for me not to suggest to you that the best course for you is to file an 11B and have this dismissed based on the ineptitude of the Crown." And I said, no, I'm not having this dismissed on some technicality and then have to live in fear and still not establish anything out of all of this. So he says, "Well, she's likely," that the judge is really good. I think she wants my phone number. So yeah, she's likely to acquit anyway. And so if that happens, then the charter challenge is stayed, and we have to reset another one, apply for another one at some point down the road and put it off even farther and what have you. But I'll not be happy with an acquittal unless, and then only minimally happy, if she says something like, "And by the way, this case, I've looked into it. It should never have been brought into the courts. This is ridiculous. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. This group is doing good things here," or something like that. But she doesn't know us. She's not from Vancouver downtown east side. Never seen the RV. She didn't know anything about what was going on here until the end of the second day when they were trying to set dates. And she goes, "Why is there 8 days set aside for this charter challenge?" She said, "Are you bringing evidence?" And Jack goes, "Oh yeah, we got witnesses and affidavits and all this other stuff." And she's like, "Oh, I see." She says, "This is a little bigger than what I thought it was." And then he laid out for her that, we're really talking about that gap of not allowing to have proper potency of cannabis for people that really need it, and low barrier access to that potency of cannabis as well. Not higher prices because it's more potent. What the fuck?
Higher tax prices.
Yeah.
Higher price, higher tax, higher everything, because you're a patient and need high edibles. My bedtime dose is, some nights it's upwards of 200, 250 milligrams just to go to bed. I wake up in the morning on a bad day. My back is fucking sore. It's raining, whatever the deal is. I can wake up with a 55 milligram tea, infused tea bag with 50 mil. That's my morning tea.
How dare these people, eh? How dare these people interfere with your health when you're suffering like that?
And I'm
millions of Canadians.
Hey, I'm using, suppositories. I use every night. I use a suppository. There's about a quarter a half a gram in the suppository.
This must not be plugged in.
Oil, which is, way higher in milligrams of THC, right? Because, I mean, we're talking a half a gram of oil. That's a lot of potency.
But
That's
there's supposed to be some
suppository,
protections in place to protect us from some of this shit, and it doesn't seem to matter.
No, I mean, I'm beating back cancer, fucking seizures, and chronic pain. Who the fuck are you to tell me how much is the right medication for that when it comes to something that I grow in my backyard?
Like the Smith
Absolutely.
is supposed to be an
somebody needs to take Health Canada task, not only on the what they're doing for the College of Physicians, but for the sheer fact of not having a contingency plan when they decided to raid over 500 dispensaries across Canada in 2018 and forced a major fentanyl crisis to ramp up and to skyrocket off in a matter of months. If you look at the numbers across the board across Canada, it got drastically worse right during those time periods. So we're looking at that as part of evidence in Saskatchewan, even for our case. And it wasn't just by chance that it all happened at the same time. So not having a contingency plan and trying to say you have people's health in mind, come on, man. I mean, how unprofessional are they? I mean, anybody can see that coming. Why didn't they have some kind of something in place? Some kind of, I mean, here we are 5 years later, just talking about. Well, they're talking about, geez, we have these holes in the system that we didn't know existed. What the fuck are you talking about? You didn't know existed. What the fuck are you talking about? There's no way you didn't know it. You didn't just. We've been dealing with this shit in court and other things, and the whole reason for all these dispensaries existing in the first place to pretend like they didn't fucking know. I mean, there needs to be some kind of class action lawsuit. Someone to take them to task on that. I mean, it's shit across the board. It's discrimination, medical discrimination.
Yeah, I've said it continually, I mean, you walk down any of the streets, whether it would be Vancouver or fucking Toronto or Saskatchewan or anywhere, everybody had a neighborhood, pre-legalization, 2017, early 2018, before Project Claudia here in fucking Toronto in Ontario, right? And they raided all the shops and everything, right? But prior to that, in those days, I mean, you could walk down the street and there was more fucking dispensaries than there were coffee shops. You could go in and what are you looking for? Hey, we got you. If we don't got you, you know what, buddy, next door, suppositories. You could get your bath bombs and your bath salts and my RSO capsule and my fucking edibles and, and that's just the meds. And then plus all of the smokables and everything else. Like, I mean, there was all these products. Entrepreneurs everywhere were making high dose meds for patients. We were all patients that were shot.
And nobody was harmed.
Yeah. Nobody was hiding it. And they're standing there. We're like, okay, you know what? Give me a license. I'll pay you. I'll pay you for this license. Give me a tax number. I'd like to pay GST. Let me get that.
Man, it just died.
It's. But what did they do? They locked us out.
Like I said, there was like 10 consumption sites too. So there was like, a dozen or so vapor lounges. Those are all gone in Toronto.
Yeah. It was a total government takeover. So I guess what has to be done for the future? I mean, obviously we know this is this shit from top to bottom. We need people to organize and I think start up again. I think we need
lobby group. I've always said that money to put towards a lobby group that works with inside the government so that we have our own experts on these review panels and stuff that are telling them the shit they're talking about is ridiculous and way out of control, and like outlining and actually showing that they've made it worse. Maybe getting patients testimonies, start getting video testimonies sent in from patients across Canada that says this is the financial struggles I have, this is the access trouble I have, these are the problems with my doctor and what he thinks. Like, just go back to old school where the patient, because you guys got to remember, and at least I do, we were sailing high, man, pre-legalization. We were like the unstoppables. It felt like we were going. to the end of the earth with it, bro. Like, I can't believe 6 years after legalization, it feels like we're like back in 2000 where we
100%.
started, when the program was just being written and they were growing that shitty ass weed in the fucking mine in Flin Flon by that shit, right? And you right, you got your shit in a tin.
A lot of groups take so long. All this shit takes long. We need people to actually start doing what we did in 2016, 2015, and start opening up shops again and saying, fuck you. Here's what we got to do. And we got to be smarter. We've learned some lessons from last time. First of all of our CBD charges, as soon as we challenge them for a charter challenge, they drop them right away. They're non-psychedelic. There's no way they can defend them in court for under the CDSA or anything else. So CBD, people are going to start fucking selling it. I mean, there's no way as soon as you challenge it for charter challenge, there's no way they're going through with it. I know that. They can't. There's no way. We need to either have things in place and be set up as private clubs, or need to be set up and organized as churches. For as far as organization only. Those things need to be done properly, and using an Amstelm decision and other things to design your church and do things like this. These things need to happen to be able to protect people and be able to protect the function of helping. And they're the only way I can see forward legally, and everything after everything we've been through down the road, court cases, all the shit. And if we have things in place and we have things set up so that when people come and join our churches or things like this or private clubs, that they're signing agreements to say, hey, we're going to show up for you in court. We're not going to ditch you or whatever else. You're compelling them to under a legal document if you have to, or whether you're getting them to sign a piece of paper right there to say whatever it is right there and then. But if what I'm saying is, so if the police come in, when the police come in, and my biggest mistake from our raids was we didn't get an injunction, and now we know we could get an injunction because if it's based on a charter challengeable issue, and you have people that will say on paper to say, hey, our life is in danger if we don't get this. In which we could obviously get that from people, get them compelled, get them to write a letter, whatever else, keep that in the files. They come and raid us. You say, hey, Your Honor, here we have a bunch of people whose lives are in jeopardy if we can't continue to service them, and they can't get the products they need from these local stores, nor can they afford them. And and here we are with our old charter challenge. We went down this road before, Your Honor, so we really need to hash this out. So, and the chances are pretty, I would think, pretty significant that you get an injunction, in which case you'd stay open until the court case is done. And even if you lost it at that point in time, you could get an appeal and then an appeal after that. So I think if everybody was smart and everybody was to organize, I know that's now that my shit's all taken care of. That's what we're looking at doing and organizing to do again, because I think it's the only way forward. It's the only way to finish this fight that they started with us, really. What we have to do is just do it right, organize properly, protect people legally, get injunctions in place, get the papers signed, make it very impossible for them to go investigate because they can't go into temples, they can't do a lot of things without significant warrants. And after they raid it, get court orders and other things set in place. So it's just a matter of now that some of us have learned a little bit of lessons along the way, we have to enact those things and put those in place. But we need people to stand and back this time. If we had multiple churches, if we had 20 or 30 of us across Canada that could organize and stick together and be like, we're all going to put in, we're all going to help for these legal funds and legal files, whatever each one of us does, like almost like a union type thing. If you'll, bad example, I don't know, like that analogy, but you know what I'm saying? That's what really needs to happen, because I think that's the only way forward. The only way that they're going to listen is in the numbers. And if we got the numbers of many people going to join many churches and they have these things done and they're going to charter challenge it in multiple places at once, they're looking at some significant costs. And if we have good people,
I'm happy to be a Northern Ontario chapter.
Well, good. I mean, we need to organize things like proper ministry. We need to organize.
Come by an old school bag for me.
Kim, I'll be your first member.
Say that again, Jeff.
What's that?
Say that again.
I said you can still come buy an old school bag of meds for me right in my house.
Going back to our roots. Come on over for coffee.
Right. Tell your friends I got the
to the roots.
Yeah.
Living room.
I started selling weed when I was 17 years old. I'll be 47 in October, and I ain't ever going to stop selling that.
Back to the roots, man.
I've been pretty vocal about that, too. So
that's all we had when I was 17. But I mean, it was the 1970s when I was that young. So it was always a guy in shorts on the couch, and he was always a large guy.
Am I back?
And he was on the couch in a leather couch in shorts.
I can't hear anything.
Bag of weed, right? Boof, 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 boof. That's who you bought it off of every fucking time. Neil's
Kim's
back.
frozen.
Camera. Excellent.
Jeffrey, I can see. Oh,
yeah. So Jeff, I mean, for you, hopefully I get to see you when I come out west.
You will.
I can't hear anything. No?
I'm looking forward to that. Indeed, Pat, you're right. I think we need to come together as a community.
I can't hear anything.
Again.
I'm not muted, no. But I don't have much in the way of volume. Can I go into settings from here and get back to here?
We can hear you, Neil.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me, but I can't hear you guys.
Yeah, we can.
So I'm gonna go back out. My battery died. So
come back in.
It all happened fast. I'm gonna go out, see if I can turn my volume up. It just makes no sense.
Says your volume's at max.
Says my volume's at maximum.
I don't know. Hopefully Neil
Kim,
gets that fixed.
Kim, I'll be your first member.
But I'll open a northern branch of a fucking church.
Do it. Let's do it. That's the plan. I want to organize a bunch of good people and get these things going. That's what we need to do, honestly, across the board.
Now,
Pat, Saskatoon or a church. We've been looking for a spot. We need product and we need funds.
Yeah. Well, products. I got a good network, so that's
we are.
But we're organizing it right now. I've been talking to people. We've been actively organizing to do it right now. So
I'm in.
I think
we
it
got 150 acres here. We can accommodate a church.
Nice. There you go. Well, they'll just be healing centers, right? But they have to organize legally as that, right?
Run out and heal in nature. Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, there's unfortunately, I don't think there's many options for, what's what are we gonna do? And there's.
But we have to come back together again as a community. I think we got splintered on a lot of exterior issues that need to be put aside. It doesn't fucking matter. We don't have to agree or believe the same thing on any other front. As long as we agree with the same thing on this front, that needs to be the focus. Put the rest of the shit to fucking bed. Well, I mean, it's only because of the fucking internet that we know about all these other things about people that we never used to fucking know. And, and it's bled into the community. And
a lot of people went over to the dark side. So a lot of people went over to what I call the dark side.
Yes.
So it's those people sold out their souls to have a piece of the pie. They're no longer part of our agenda.
No, they're not in the community.
They might still be our friends. They might still be our spoken buddies.
A lot of them have already came and went.
Yeah,
right.
That's what happened to them. I mean,
this is all because of the brilliance of the plan that we've had used against us. Yeah. They definitely conspired and figured out what they could do. We were winning. 420 here in Vancouver in 2019 was over the top.
Unbelievable.
So, they decided, well, okay, we can give them what they're asking for. We can legalize and regulate. We'll legalize it so they can get weed, but they can only get it from the Trudeau cartel. And we'll regulate it so that anybody else is still a criminal. And now all these mechanisms of prohibition get to continue on and take taxpayer dollars and make huge amounts of money off of ruining people's lives and all the rest of that whole prohibition thing, while they have legal weed for those who want to have that. And the Trudeau cartel is making off like bandits. And it's not even about Canada. This is about exporting this model around the world where Tilroy and these other big companies can become the major suppliers of these other jurisdictions where they still have tight criminal controls on cannabis use, but you can get it from the government and you're okay. It's a hell of a scheme. They divided us. They made it so that, everybody wanted to be legal, like you said before. Everybody wanted to get a license. They want to pay their taxes if taxes should apply.
Yeah.
But so, they thought, okay, let's get into this. And I know some of these people, they're not bad people. They're not different people than they were before. They've maybe bought a bill of goods, and maybe they've altered their shift a little bit because it suits their personal interest, but they just wanted to be legal. They wanted to have a legal system that would work. And many of them are trying from the inside to try to do something to to make the system better. And in my opinion, what needs to happen is they can have their expensive cannabis and all the rest of that. They got to fuck off with the regulations. The government needs to get out of the pot business. But, there's lots of room for people to still sell cannabis for $4,000 a pound at $10 a gram. Lots of room for that. People are going to pay that forever. Some people want to have expensive cannabis, but they've got to allow good quality cannabis at low barrier, low prices, all the rest of it for those people who need to get it like that. There's no reason that they can't. And so that's the shift that needs to happen. There needs to be low barrier access available either within the confines of the government stores themselves or in other stores that are in the neighborhood that can do that. And yeah, they're going to be undercutting the prices of those other expensive stores. But so what? The guy pulling up in his Mercedes-Benz to the expensive store and buying the expensive shit, not coming to the low barrier access community cannabis store and buying equally as good weed for a tenth of the price or less than that. He's going to the expensive store and he's going to show it to his friends and he's going to feel like he's got the best cannabis. So yeah, some people are going to go and spend their money where they might have spent it at the government store. But most of the people, they're not spending it at the government stores anyway. They're still in the unregulated marketplace because the weed is better and it's still cheaper.
That's right.
Yeah, I absolutely 100%. Neil. I think this is just a long-term plan. They're not fucking around with the regulations or the prices or the taxes right now because the long-term game is consolidation. They want to make all the fucking small guys have to give up and get out. They can't pay their taxes. They can't pay their regulation fees or whatever it is, all the rest of the shit. So they have to sell out to the big guys. And that's all this is about. I mean, if black market, when black market is still a competition 10 years from now, and there's only 4 or 5 fucking major labels in the industry because they're going to have to consolidate, they'll probably drop the taxes because that'll help take care of the rest of the fucking black market. They'll drop the taxes then. Only when it was conducive to tilt the table in their direction.
But they won't drop them far enough to allow for the unregulated market to start coming back because they can make good money again.
Yeah.
No, they know exactly what they're doing. We're up against very brilliant
it's consolidation long-term
people.
They sat around and talked about it for a couple of years before they fucking let it all out. You damn rights, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yep.
With degrees much higher than me.
But you know what? That's why, for me, that's why I understand trying to defend our friends that we have known for years as Jeff says, that have gone over to the dark side. They've gotten into the legal industry. And I understand Mr. Magnuson's need to try and defend those people by saying, maybe they got duped and, maybe, they're trying to change things from the inside and all of that.
That's the worst fucking position. That was the excuse every fucking wannabe you ever used.
Yeah, my position's been clear on this from the beginning. I call fucking bullshit on that. I'm sorry. You cannot fix a broken system from the inside or the outside. No. There is no fixing it.
I think you have to embarrass them and make them look stupid is what you have to do. That's the only way of changing it. You have to embarrass them, make them look stupid, and give them I told you so moments. I mean, what else can you do except prove them wrong? I mean, you can't change fuck all from the inside. Unless you got the money, you can't change fuck all from the inside.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
but according to the powers that be, the system's working as it should.
Yeah, for them. Yep.
Exactly.
The only one making bank on this is government.
That's right.
Yep. And corporations.
Well, the big multinationals are too. So like New Zealand and stuff. New Zealand, these guys are paying $400 for swag. Right, and it's all from the multinational companies coming down from Canada, sending their garbage down there is all they're doing. So at the end of the day, like Neil said, they want to export this model, but the only place they're going to take it are going to be Commonwealth countries. This model, because like we're getting made fun of right now. We're actually getting kicked out of places in South America, and especially if you're an LP, working for an LP, you're in trouble in a lot of countries. Like they'll tell you to get the fuck out. But like even private consultants now, I have friends down there, and they've been seriously questioned if they're working for an LP or not, if they're working down there now. And these guys got.
But it suits government to allow this model to happen because, like you said, they're the ones who are making bank off the top, and their money's guaranteed. and the model suits these rich guys. So I think it can be probably adopted everywhere.
Yeah,
and even if it's not,
but I can't really say much, but I know for a fact there's a couple of major sources in Europe right now. They're looking at doing work with First Nations and doing nation-to-nation work out of Colombia or out of New Zealand or out of Canada to bring it over and to be the main. And it's put on by some big monarchy type people that are the ones hosting and putting on the idea. So there is some interest in not going with the LPs and having actually established markets in Europe and from South America and Canada to Europe. I can't say much more than that.
But
we
getting
can
back
only
to
hope.
Canada here, and where we're at, I don't see good things in the future for legal cannabis.
Well, we'll see what the courts say, right?
Or for
if I get to present this case to a judge and get them to say their opinion, which I'll be surprised if I get to do that. But if I do get to do that, then maybe we do have a chance. Jack's getting better and better and better at every case,
Yes.
And I think legalization in Canada will go as far as Jack and these other activist lawyers are able to take us, and that the courts will allow. And then we'll see what the government does about that. But we're dealing with extremely rich, sophisticated people who don't want to let go of this cash cow that they got going on. It ain't going to be easy.
It's very important there. What the courts will allow. Just like you, I was offered every option forward, including just sign this fucking piece of paper and walk away right now. Just admit that you're guilty. And that's what they wanted. As soon as we started challenging, being, no, we're not. We'll take this to the end. And in fact, we also want these FOIP information files from this program and this program and this program. And as soon as we started asking those questions, they're like, we don't, because if they would have given all those out, there could be a lot of lawsuits started out after that and so on.
That's right.
And they just wanted me to sign that paper at the end of the day. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, we didn't even have a choice. They basically said, we're giving you a stay of charges and you're not going to court with us. So we didn't even have to go to court. They basically just said, you're getting a stay of charges and your court case is done. And we're like,
but maybe in a charter challenge, they're not able to do that as easily.
Off the charter part, but I'm talking for the criminal charges after. For the
so we'll see what Jack can do.
Walk with that, right?
But I think if we can do it properly in court and get our ducks all lined up and articulate it right, I think we got a really good case. And we'll see if the judges are so corrupt that they still won't agree that what we're doing is the right thing. I don't know. I live with hope, because without hope, I don't move forward. But I know that I'm a bit of an optimist that isn't always right about what I'm hoping will happen. But still, I need hope, and I do have hope. And I think right now, like I say, I think it lies within however far these activist lawyers can take us through the courts.
100%.
Yep. 100%. We're with you there, Neil. 100%. Looks like Ron is frozen. I don't know if SteveO is frozen too. Is everybody frozen except me, or am I frozen?
I'm moving.
I'm
there
okay.
it is. SteveO is moving. Yeah.
I'm okay.
Ron's frozen. All right. It wasn't me. Good. Because you're never sure, right? Is it me or is it Memorex?
It might be Rob.
There's
There it
Ron's
is.
back. Ron's back. Good. It's been, I could talk to you guys for fucking hours more, but we're at like 90 minutes already. I'm going to call it, and I'm going to thank each and every one of you for joining me on this very interesting conversation that we've had tonight about legalization in Canada. For our American viewers out there, as you can see, legalization is not all it's cracked up to be.
It's not legalization.
You might want to rethink that shit.
Yeah.
Corporate government takeover.
Decriminalize
government takeover. That's what it was.
By the rich, for the rich.
Yep. Crushing small business, the people who actually gave their heart and their souls into this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got
and certainly not for the people that need it the most, the sick people, the suffering people, the people that are struggling with addiction. Those people need to get easy access to cannabis to live proper lives, and they're certainly not included in this at all.
And the government plan is to eliminate med, because med gives patients a separate program with separate rights. They don't want that. They want you to have access on a recreational level, free access and unrestricted access, which means that they can remove your medical programs from wherever it is that you live, because you don't need a medical program if you can just go to the store and buy it. And that's the direction that they're going to go. That's what they're doing here in Canada. That's what they're doing across the globe. REC is to eliminate med, and it is to tax this as a commodity under the Pharmacare Act and things like that. It's just, it's a hypocrisy and bastardization of the plant.
So for me, in conclusion, my summary of this review of the Cannabis Act is that it was extremely expensive. There's a huge amount of taxpayer dollars being wasted on all of this nonsense about putting together youth panels and other things, and all the work that they were doing is all at our expense. And it's got this big elephant in the room of public health and safety, where there is no evidence that there's any deterrent or negative health and safety going on with cannabis. And there's all this evidence that there's great positivity with respect to public health and safety. So it's upside down, backwards, and inside out. And it's, just a corrupt document paid for by those people that want to cash in and continue to oppress us. There you go.
Yeah. Final words, Pat.
Yeah, just keep on fighting. We need to organize, as an industry again, and to be able to help patients. And we need to fight to the end. And hopefully, people can see that we can fight. We can organize as a group and do this. The end is a win. Yeah. We can't just take this and sit down and think this is the end. We have to gather all relative information. All these things, like we were saying before. People said, "Oh, we're changing from the inside." Not one person out of a million that did one thing from the inside. We got to realize that's not how it's going to go. We need people to fight. We need people to stand up. We need to do it together. If we inundate them with cases and we work together, they can't take us on. They can't.
100%. Jeff, final words?
Where do we stand as a patient, as a medical marijuana patient, as an advocate for cannabis use for all medical ailments that you feel you need to survive in this world, just to get by, to have another day, to be close to your loved ones, anything that takes. Like it's real. This has been really hard for me to watch, considering the amount of work and effort we put in. And we're pre-2018, and the glory that was. I look to regain that glory, and I fuck the Cannabis Act and suck every part of my dick. I will continue to be here for medical marijuana patients. I will continue to advocate. I will continue to sell medical grade cannabis at an extremely low price. You don't need a license. You don't need an ID. I don't care. I care what's wrong with you, and I care about you living another day on this planet. That's what I care about. So I will continue to be a patient advocate and a patient cannabis user, grower, seller, and whatever else anybody needs. I got you. Let's just go. You want soldiers? Let's go to war. I'm ready. I've always been ready.
Yeah, 100%. Mr. McNabb, are you still with us?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Final words. Yeah, we got your voice. Okay. That's what we need.
Final word here is, for me, I wouldn't be here without this plant. Plain and simple. On the path that I was on, 23 pills a day, and it was not good. I got to the point where I was planning the end of my life. Now I wake up every morning. I can't wait to start the day. And now I get to have a voice doing a few shows on the network here, and having the ability to come in on different shows like this. And the Cannabis Act the whole thing is ridiculous. And the fact that there's even any laws and regulations about a plant is ridiculous. Do we have laws and regulations about oil of oregano? I don't think so. But same people who love oil of oregano will turn their nose down to oil of cannabis. Yeah. Why? There's no difference, in my opinion. It's the same.
Apricot seeds.
So
funny that works out.
So yeah. What was that?
Or apricot seeds. We have regulations against apricot seeds.
Really?
Why? Oh yeah, because they help with cancer.
Yeah.
I
didn't know that.
Because they're too valuable.
They're too valuable. That's right. So you can't have apricot seeds.
Just like the avocado in Mexico.
Yeah. It's wild, isn't it?
Anyways,
anything that can help, anything that's gonna take money away from their pockets, they're not gonna let you have. Not for free.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Cannabis is only illegal because it's so valuable.
Billion-dollar industries.
I think what we're entering into is to close off Prohibition 3.0 with this, because this just further tightens the regulations if any of these recommendations get passed. And there is a list of all the stakeholders who participated in this, and there's a at the document there's a link to go see all the people who contributed to it. I think you'd be surprised to see some of the names in there, or not surprised really. But anyways,
I tried my ass off. I tried connecting for like days on end. I gave my name. I did everything to try to be a part of it. Nothing.
They probably didn't want. They probably didn't want you.
They don't want us in there.
They probably know who you are.
They don't want any of us.
Nope. Anyways.
All right. Well, final words then.
I'm here for the fight.
Absolutely. Thank you. Siir SteveO in the house. As an American, you've been on Canadian podcast now for over a year. You've seen a lot that we've got going on up here, and you and I talk, and panel shows like this. What are your final thoughts on what we got going on up here in Canada?
Well, I will say that, as far as this panel goes, I'm sorry that the system has failed you with patience first. I know that it's just not good. Some as business, it ruined your business, the regulations, the laws, and, the fight that you guys are having right now, go give them hell. And they have a hell of a fight on their hands with you guys. I tell you, they got the tiger by the tail. So just go get it changed. Keep fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much to each and every one of my panel members that joined me tonight. We've got Ron McNabb in the house. We've got Neil Magnuson, Pat Warnecke, Jeff Lundstrom, Jack Lloyd, who froze and had computer issues or client issues, something. He had to go. He was here for a bit, and there he was gone once again. A lawyer's life. Thank you very much.
He's on 1,800 files.
1,800 files. The life
He's
of
got work to do.
lawyer.
The way we keep going, he's going to end up with more for sure.
SteveO, all my shit's packed. I'm going to leave the closing to you, please.
Oh, absolutely. I got it. Let's see here. In closing, I would like to thank all of our guests for joining us here tonight on Peace News and Views, created for and aired on the NOK network. And thank you to you, all of you, our listeners, for joining us tonight on our Cannabis Focused podcast. So thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we will see you again next week with another very special guest here on Peace News and Views on the NOK network. Good night, everyone. Peace.
Peace.
Let's all go into pot, whether we like it or not. Best I can tell, the world's gone to hell, and we're sure gonna miss it a lot. All the whiskey in Lynchburg, Tennessee, just couldn't fill that spot. I got $100 bill, man, you can keep your pills, man. It's all going to pot. It's all going to pot, whether we like it or not. Best I can tell, the world's gone to hell, and we're sure gonna miss it a lot. All the whiskey in Lynchburg, Tennessee, just couldn't fill the spot. I got $100 bill, man, you can keep your pills, man. It's all going to pot. I got $100 bill, man, you can keep your pills, man. It's all going to pot.